Hello, I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and this is Graded for NXT and 205 Live, where I take a look at each show, segment by segment, and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. It's the go-home shows for Mania weekend. It just doesn't feel like Mania weekend this year, I don't know why. But hopefully it means we're going to see some good action revolving around the Cruiserweight Championship match on the Mania card, and of course, just the entirety of NXT TakeOver. So without any further ado, hit the intro. So we start with 205 Live, as we always do, and we go straight to the ring for Kalisto versus Oney Lorcan. Lucha House Party come to the stage with Kalisto. They do all their posing and everything, and one of them's got a mic and the music cuts out. They welcome everybody to 205 Live, and they say, we're going to have a good night. Then they hand the microphone to Kalisto, and he just goes, "It's Lucha time!" What? He just walks down to the ring and gets in the ring afterwards. I thought they were going to get, like, jumped from behind or something interesting. No. It's Lucha time. So from the very get-go of this match, Lorcan is the guy in charge. The aggression that's on display is off the scale. Kalisto doesn't quite know what to do, but he gets some sneaky roll-ups in. Obviously doesn't pick up the 3, but goes to the ropes and tries to do one of those crisscrossy, springboardy, bouncy things. Accidentally slips, and it's a little bit awkward. Recovers it though, but it was a little bit awkward because it was the first sort of big pop of the night, and it was for a botch. Kalisto does seem to find his feet a little bit, but Lorcan eventually throws him to the outside, drives him into the barricade, and then he goes up to commentary and he's like, "You ask Cedric if Cedric saw that." It's just a nutter, a lovely, scary, massive nutter. Back in the ring, and Lorcan has grounded Kalisto. He's really trying to work over the midsection, and we cut to backstage because why not? It's only the middle of a match, but it's Buddy Murphy, and he's really angry, and he's shoving people out the way, and he's kicking stuff out of his way. The champ is in the building. Whenever Kalisto seems to get going, Lorcan just wipes him out and takes him back to the mat, and his chest is just weltered, like horribly, horribly weltered from the chops by this point. He does manage to mount a comeback though. He hits a Mexico City twister and hits a couple of super kicks, and he even manages to land flat on his feet from a half and half attempt from Lorcan, but he just can't capitalize on it. He's straight back up and they're going back at it. Kalisto goes for a Salida del Sol, but Lorcan's got it scouted. He nails Kalisto with an uppercut, sends him over the top rope to the apron. With both men out on the apron, Lorcan goes again for the half and half, but Kalisto manages to wiggle himself forward enough so that he can walk up the ring post and hit a Salida del Sol onto the apron. It looked brilliant. Lorcan is incensed by this point. He goes up to the top rope with Kalisto, teases a top rope half and half, but Kalisto manages to kick him free, and he goes for a 450, but Lorcan gets his knees up, connects with the half and half finally, and picks up the 3. I'm going to give this one a B-. I think that Oney Lorcan is just proving that he's ready-made for 205 Live. He's got something that nobody else on that roster has. He's got this sort of wild mental aggression. I think the division's been missing that sort of cerebral character, and I think that, given the clash of styles that he's going to have in most of his matches, it's just going to be really exciting to watch him. We cut backstage, and there's Drake Maverick, and Cedric Alexander comes up, and he asks Drake Maverick, why didn't I get the match with Lorcan tonight? I told you I wanted the match, why didn't I get it? And Maverick says, well, I just think, you've not had a lot of wins recently, and I want you to have a cool down period so that you're fighting fit and you're at 100% when we finally have the match. We then keep it backstage, and Tony Nese is being interviewed, and the interviewer asks him about WrestleMania, and he says, there is no pressure on me at WrestleMania, all of the pressure's on Murphy, because Murphy knows I'm the only guy that can beat him. But then, surprise, surprise, he's jumped from behind by Buddy Murphy, and the pair have a little bit of a brawl, and they go all the way down a corridor, and through a door, and I imagine through about 7 other rooms full of confused people, and then through a curtain, and onto the entrance ramp. But there's a huge pull apart. Referees are coming out, security are coming out, agents are coming out, everybody's trying to keep them separated, but Nese grabs Murphy, drives him face first into the big LED screens they have by the entrance, hits the running Nese, and then just points at the WrestleMania sign. And then we go back to the ring for tonight's main event, which is Akira Tozawa versus Mike Kanellis. Now the crack going into this one was that Mike really, really needed the win, and Maria assisted him by distracting Tozawa. So Drake Maverick, I think it was last week, said that you're going to face him again because Tozawa is not happy, but if you're going to bring Maria to ringside, he's going to bring Brian Kendrick. This one, again, is fairly even in the opening phase. Nobody's really getting the upper hand. There's a lovely moment where Tozawa's teasing a dive. He's going to go for the dive, but Kanellis gets back up in the ring quickly and hits him with a clothesline. And wherever he can, Mike is just trying to keep Tozawa on the mat. He's trying to work over the torso, work over the back. You can't hit your massive senton if your back's in agony. And commentary keep putting over Mike as somebody who is overly passionate and overly desperate, which we've seen in recent weeks is sort of the reason he keeps losing matches. There's another sort of awkward moment where there's a reversal that goes a little bit wrong. Tozawa goes for a drop kick. Mike catches him into a powerbomb position, and had it like worked a bit more smoothly, it would have looked amazing, but Mike comes down on him from a bit of a high angle and it looks a bit just nasty, a bit like, oh, that looked painful. Maria is trying to keep Mike angry. She just keeps screaming, be aggressive at him. And so he gets Tozawa. He keeps him under control for a little bit, but he quickly loses his grip. Tozawa deadlifts him, plants him face first into the turnbuckle, hits him with a running knee, and then connects with a massive missile dropkick. So, well done. And now things are starting to turn a little bit in the opposite direction. Tozawa is desperately trying to get that 3, but he can't do it, and he's starting to get a little bit angry. And then Mike from out of nowhere hits this picture-perfect, beautifully high, beautifully brutal-looking spinebuster. He manages to avoid some of Tozawa's offense coming off the back of it, but he eventually gets caught in an octopus, and he powers his way up through all of the agony, through all of the pain, and stumbles his way to the rope, and both men go flying. Both men then brawl around the ring, and eventually Mike hits an assisted cutter using the barricade to sort of elevate Tozawa's feet. He then pops Brian Kendrick in the face because he's just trying to check on his mate. It's a bit of a dick move there, Mike. Back in the ring, Mike has big plans. He goes up the top rope. Tozawa comes up. He manages to avoid getting superplexed by Tozawa and then ends up getting top rope rana'd. Both men then go blow for blow, and Tozawa eventually tries to go for the senton but gets blocked. Tozawa is then out on the apron and he goes over the top rope trying to do like a springboard roll-up, but Mike manages to maintain his balance and he sits straight down into a pinning predicament. Mike and Maria then clutch each other's hands, with Maria pulling Mike forward to maintain the balance on the pin, but Brian Kendrick wakes up at ringside, alerts the referee and stops the count, and in the ensuing confusion, Tozawa is able to continue his roll through and pick up the 3. I'm going to give this match a B+. I thought it was a really strong showing for both men. It continues Mike's down on his luck storyline. I'm really excited to see where it's going to go next because he keeps tweeting about wanting to go work for Evolve for a bit, and yeah, Tozawa got his revenge, so all is right in the 205 Live world. Overall, I'm going to give this week's episode of 205 Live a B. I'm mainly just excited for Nese and Murphy now at Mania. I think that's going to be possibly the standout match on the entire card, but yeah, I'm also really enjoying Lorcan. I think that everything that's going on with him, his sort of unhinged, twisted character is really cool, and if he's going to be feuding with Cedric, then we're in for some very, very good matches. And now we move on to NXT and we go straight to the ring for the opening match, which is War Raiders versus local competitors. So War Raiders need to look strong before TakeOver, and this one's going to be very, 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 very painful. So what happens in the match? Well, they clean house, they hit the double finish, and they pick up the 3, and then they get on the stick. They cut a promo and they say they are here to send a message, so bring out the next team. And that team is Adrian Jaoude and Cezar Bononi. Bononi is a pretty big boy, so he goes straight onto the offensive, but it definitely doesn't work. If there's one thing you don't want to do with War Raiders, it's just walk right up to Hansen and slap him in the face. So yeah, Raiders make very quick work of the pair. Rowe hits his combination power slam, power bomb, like where he's got both guys on him at once, and then War Raiders hit an elevated assisted leg drop, and yeah, pick up the 3. Now, a lot of people would be raving about this. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was really cool, but in Graded, I'm your teacher and I have standards, and a squash match isn't a match. It's not a match. This did a lot to set up the match, like the match they've got at TakeOver, and it's going to, make them look super strong. They look like beasts. It's great, but it's a squash match, so it's getting a C. It did its job so well. So well, but yeah. It was a squash, and I've made a big thing about not grading squashes the same as I've graded all these other matches, and I don't want everybody in the comments going, oh my god, can't believe that you gave that squash an amazing score. We then go backstage and an earlier today segment. There's a lot of earlier todays on NXT, and Candice is arriving at the building, and they're like, are you looking forward to TakeOver? Are you going to be watching Johnny's match? And she's like, I'm excited for Johnny's match, of course, he's my husband, but it's not the only match that I'm going to be watching. I've always wanted to have a WWE Championship, and I think it's about time that I started trying to realise that dream. And then Aaliyah and Bourne appear, and they're like, you're never going to achieve your dream, you're a failure. It's like proper school, like bloody bullies. But Candice sits and listens fairly to all the horrible things they have to say about her, and she says, you know what, I'm going to earn I'm going to earn my championship opportunity, and I'm going to start with you. And she points at Aaliyah. She says that she's going to start with, your bougie ass. So, she said ass. Badass. Cool. We then go back to the ring for Oney Lorcan in action for the second time in this episode of Graded versus Jaxson Ryker. Yes, Jaxson Ryker. He is a big, beautiful, scary man. I think Vince is going to be absolutely in love with him once he realizes that he exists. And this is going to be a hell of a horrible match. So things start off with the much smaller Lorcan trying to tie Ryker up, but the guy is a tree, so it's not going to work. Ryker just lays it in, picks him up in an elevated sort of suplex position and hangs him out to dry, stomach first on the rope. Lorcan falls to the floor, the Sons walk toward him, but then in comes Danny Burch, giving it his best piss dad on an episode of EastEnders impression. He's demanding that the Sons fight him. While all this is going on, Ryker just grabs Lorcan and takes him up to the top rope, but Lorcan manages to escape. And then Lorcan eats this huge delayed gutbuster, he eats chops, he eats strikes, he eats knees, and Ryker hasn't even broken a sweat. Lorcan then attempts a sunset flip, but again, that ain't gonna fly. Ryker just lifts him up into a bear hug. He manages to escape, but no, that's not going to fly either. He does eventually start getting on the front foot though. He's laying in loads of European uppercuts and he's really taking it to Ryker. But then he starts getting cocky with them. He's going corner to corner diagonally. Ryker stumbles forward, turns him inside out, hits his finish, and picks up the 3. I'm going to give this one a B-. This was a pure show of dominance for Ryker, which they are really going to need if he is the leader of the Forgotten Sons, and the Forgotten Sons are getting a big push moving forward. Please give them a big push. They bloody deserve it. And Lorcan did look valiant in defeat. It was just a shame that he was outmatched from a power perspective from before the bell even rang. We then go backstage to yet another earlier today as Keith Lee stands there with all of these microphones around him. He's called the world's press. We didn't get a bloody invite. But he's called everybody here to make a statement on the fact that him and Dijakovic were pushed off the TakeOver card. He says he's obviously very unhappy that their match isn't going to be on TakeOver, but he was the first guy in line at Regal's office demanding to know why, and Regal simply told him that it needed to go onto NXT TV, and so it'll be happening in 2 weeks. And then we go back to the ring for tonight's main event, Kairi Sane versus Bianca Belair. Both women get off to a really good start, with Belair really playing up to Sane. There is a great little moment as well where Sane does a taunt of her own and then just slaps the piss out of Bianca. And then afterwards she just starts twisting her hair in a taunting manner. Kairi eventually gets control as things spill to the outside. She hits a flying kabuki elbow and she sends Bianca flying. Back in the ring, Kairi locks in a cross-legged crab, but Bianca manages to escape and she almost picks up the 3 after planting her. Belair locks in an abdominal stretch and she's getting the elbow right in there. She hits a pendulum backbreaker and Kairi is having a hard time getting back to her feet. And then there's this picture-perfect crossbody from Sane that Belair catches and turns into a fall-away slam. Joe Hendry, local hero. Belair goes for a jumping frog splash, but she finds Kairi's knees and then Kairi drop kicks her to the outside, but her back is so done in she can't capitalize. I'm just going to consult my notes for the next bit because a lot of things happened in very quick succession. Back in the ring, Sane manages to fight off Belair with a series of punches, a dragon screw leg whip, an axe kick, and a pair of neck snaps. She hits the flying D, she goes top rope, and she hits another flying kabuki elbow, but she can't put Belair away. And then possibly the spot of the match happens for me. There's a horrible looking seated superplex that comes from Belair, and the way Kairi lands, it just looks like a gunshot. She then hits a standing moonsault and follows up with several rapid fire pins. Literally, Sane is lying there and she's like, well, I'll pin you traditionally. No. Okay, well, I'll pin both shoulders. No. Well, pin both legs right back? No. But then, yeah, she sort of gives up on that, gets her into a double chicken wing position and plants Sane face first into the mat. And then, as Belair stands tall, who bloody comes out to ruin all the fun but Shayna and the friggin' horsewomen? Yeah. The brawl gets a little bit out of hand, everything's going wild, and then the best moment of this episode of NXT, the best moment of the entire episode, every single member of the NXT women's roster comes down to put a stop to it. They have had enough of Shayna's crap. They brawl to the outside, they take the horsewomen out of the ring, they're dragging them toward the ramp, and then Bianca Belair gets Lacey Lane, military presses her onto the pile of bodies, and Io Shirai quickly capitalizes by hitting a moonsault onto the pile as well. Io Shirai then grabs the NXT Women's Championship, she gets in the ring, she holds it high, and Kairi Sane looks a little bit worried. I'm gonna have to give this match and this segment, just the entire package of this main event, an A. There's no way that I can't do that. We've been waiting for this for so long, and I'm really starting to question what's gonna happen in the women's match at TakeOver. Especially given that Shayna doesn't need to be pinned to lose her belt. Could Io Shirai pin Kairi Sane? Could it start this huge feud? Please start a huge feud. I want to see you kicking the crap out of each other every week. Overall, I'm going to give this week's episode of NXT a B. I think it did a really good job of hyping up some of the TakeOver matches that were maybe a little bit neglected in recent weeks. You know, as I've just said, the women's roster have finally snapped, and I just want to know what's going to happen in the women's match. War Raiders look utterly unstoppable, and Ryker got a really good showing, so good on you, Ryker. But what did you think of 205 Live and NXT? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Graded. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.